Let's move over to your wide receiver rankings, your top 10 here, headlined by Justin Jefferson and Cooper Kupp in their own tier there at the top. Obviously, big expectations for a Kupp bounce back here, Barry, and then a lot of familiar characters. Besides Garrett Wilson breaking into the top 10 after winning Offensive Rookie of the Year.
I mean, insanely talented, now gets Aaron Rodgers, who's, no dummy. Rodgers is going to look for Wilson early and often. You see all sort of the typical names there that you expect. I don't think there's any shock. But Kupp I want to talk about at number 2. I thought Jay, believe it or not, brought up a great point the other time we talked about
Nicely
Cooper
done,
Kupp.
Jay.
Yeah, exactly. Every once in a while you run into it. But the point is that, no, what Jay said, which I thought was so smart and spot on, was that Cooper Kupp 2 years ago, the year the Rams won the Super Bowl, proved that when they're winning, he can be the best wide receiver in fantasy football. He can just be a dominant force. But last year, when everything that could go wrong did go wrong, he was still a dominant force. We forget about it because Jefferson's season was so magical and because he got hurt. But last year, on a points-per-game basis, no one was better than Cooper Kupp. He averaged more fantasy points per game than Justin Jefferson, than Tyreek Hill, than Jamar Chase, than anyone. 22.4 fantasy points per game in his 8 full games. That's what he averaged. Had over 25 fantasy points in 5 of those 8 full games. So even in a season in which everything that could have gone wrong for the Rams did go wrong, he was still an elite fantasy option. The floor is so high with Kupp, as is the upside. I not only have him as my number 2 wide receiver, but I have him as a top 4 overall pick.
Yep, no, absolutely with Kupp. I mean, we kind of maybe forget about it a little bit, but he did have maybe the greatest wide receiver season in history 2 years ago, and he's still young enough where it should be the same type of operation. The one thing with him that I would worry about, and maybe this is irrational, but you look at the other guys around him, guys like Jefferson, like Chase, other guys as well, like Tyreek Hill. You expect that they're going to be on winning teams and playing meaningful games late in the season. I would worry a little bit that if Cooper Kupp has a niggling ankle injury, if that team is out of the mix, maybe he's not playing the last 3 weeks of the season, whereas the other guys, you know that they're probably going to be out there. So that would just be the one thing, is that I don't think you really want to invest in the Los Angeles Rams, but Kupp, if he's healthy and out there playing, is as good as anyone.
Barry, was Jameson Williams' suspension, did that help Amon-Ra St. Brown in the rankings at all? Now there'll be 6 games where it's Amon-Ra pretty much in a high octane passing attack.
It certainly didn't hurt. I mean, I was already high on Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, last year, look, he had a 29% target share. Targets are earned in the NFL. And the fact of the matter is that even if Jameson Williams is there, think about it. So, Hawkinson is no longer there. Who else do they have there? Marvin Jones made a return there. They have Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond.
Yeah, they drafted
the rookie
Gibbs
Sam
and Laporta. And
right.
how much do those guys get immediately?
Exactly. So the passing game, and it's a pretty good passing game behind a good offensive coordinator, and Jared Goff, I think, has played above expectations here. Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be the focal point of this passing attack. Last year, he had 13 games with 8 or more targets. He averaged 19.3 fantasy points per game in those games. And yes, we expect him to, even when Jameson Williams is out there, Jameson Williams is a speedster. He's not a guy that's going to command 8 to 10 targets a game, I feel like. He's a guy that you take a couple of shots at. He's a guy that's going to be like in the 5 to 6 target range to me. Amon-Ra, coming out of the slot, to me, will continue to have a massive target share and a good offense. He's my wide receiver 7.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and RotoWorld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from RotoWorld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.